This is a regular city council meeting of the city of Ocean Shores. It is September 24th, 2024, and the time is 6 p.m. The meeting is being held at the Ocean Shores Convention Center. The meetings are simulcast and archived on KOSW Radio. Meetings are live streamed with closed captioning and may be accessed on the city website under council recordings. The meetings can be viewed on cable channel 68 Thursdays at 12 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Roll call.
Councilmember Sires.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Griebel.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
Councilmember Scott. Councilmember Wills.
Here.
I need a motion to excuse Rich Hartman from tonight's meeting.
I make a motion to excuse Rich Hartman from tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we got through that. Richard, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Justice for all.
All right, can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So ceremonies and proclamations. The Ocean Shores Police Department Volunteer Officer introduction will be presented by Police Chief Nikki Logan.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and citizens of Ocean Shores. Tonight it brings me great pleasure to introduce Adam Johnson as the first reserve police officer we've hired with the Ocean Shores Police Department in over 15 years. Possibly over 20 years. We're not quite sure, but it's been a long time. To be honest, Officer Johnson has been after me to restart the reserve program for about 9 years now. I was a little slow. For those of you who don't know what the program entails, a reserve officer goes through the same extensive background testing as a full-time officer, which can be very invasive and stressful at times. After passing that, they will attend a reserve academy where they put in a minimum of 356 hours of training over a period of about 6 months. The hours are put in on weekends along with evening hours during the week. And these people are usually working full-time jobs on top of putting in the training hours. And on top of that, they're doing it all for free. Then after they graduate and continue down the road, and continuing down that road of doing everything for free, they then completely volunteer their time as they leave their families at home and come out here to protect you and yours as they work as a reserve police officer, doing this in their spare time. So now that I have put that little bit of information out there, let me give you some background on Officer Johnson. He was born and raised in Aberdeen, graduating from Aberdeen High School in 2007, where he started his career in IT as he worked for the school district while he was still a student. He has put in over 16 years working in some sort of facet of the world of information technology since then. And he continues to work in that industry, running his own business, which he started in 2013. Officer Johnson is actually a lateral reserve officer coming to us from the Cosmopolis Police Department, where he started his volunteer law enforcement career in 2014. So he's actually already completed the required academy training. We at the Ocean Shores Police Department sincerely appreciate Officer Johnson's willingness to volunteer his time to assist our officers. And I hope the citizens of Ocean Shores understand and appreciate what Officer Johnson is doing by volunteering his time in this community. With that, Officer Johnson will have his wife, Maureen, doing his ceremonial pinning of his badge this evening. And then if Sarah will come up and swear him in.
Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of the State of Washington. The laws of the State of Washington. The ordinances of the City of Ocean Shores. And will faithfully perform the duties of Volunteer Reserve Police Officer for the City of Ocean Shores, Washington. To the best of my ability.
Okay, so as I explained the whole volunteer thing and how he actually comes in his spare time to work for the department for free, I think a big thank you actually needs to go to his family that he is leaving behind to come and do that. And if everybody would please join me in welcoming our one and only volunteer reserve police officer, Officer Adam Johnson.
All right, announcements, board and committee vacancies. We have one vacancy on the Civil Service Commission. Next up, we have public comment. Public communication to council is intended for communication to the city council regarding general council business or policy not on tonight's agenda. Address comments or questions to the city council body, not to an individual member or city staff. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. We request that comments be nice and respectful. This is not a question and answer time, and the council cannot engage. Sitting there rattling away. No person can may use this public comment for the purpose of campaign or advertisement. The city council will begin the time once the citizen has started their public comment. At 2 minutes, you will see a green light followed by a yellow light indicating 30 seconds remain of the public comment period. The red light will notify the reader that the public comment time has ended. Order of public comments will be first, individuals attending in person, second, individuals attending remotely, and the general public comment, whether in person or remotely, will continue in the usual position on the agenda. So, who do we have up, Scott?
All right. Good evening. We have 3 public comments for this evening. The first, Don Williams on the budget schedule.
Good evening, Don Williams. My topic tonight is the budget schedule. I looked at the 2025-26 budget development schedule that was made available several months ago, and it seems that some of the listed milestones on that schedule have either not been completed or have been canceled. And I'm just wondering what the status of the budget development really is. I'll give you some examples. At the last council meeting on September the 9th, it called for a review of all the city fees, water, sewer, storm drain, and permitting fees. And I don't believe that took place. However, at the Finance Committee meeting, which took place last week, there was a discussion, but wasn't really much about the fees. It had to do with putting a COLA, cost of living adjustment, on all fees and all rates in the city. And discussion also was a 6% cap every year on that COLA, which to me is very excessive, but I think the citizens are going to want to hear a lot about plans to put COLAs and caps on our fees and other services. And there was a discussion at the Finance Committee, like I said, it wasn't really much. But at the council on 9/24, that's tonight, we're supposed to be looking at staff budget reports and things, and I don't think there's anything on the agenda. And not shown on the budget schedule at all is a public hearing on on revenues and sources of revenue and taxes. And I believe that public hearing is mandatory by state law. We've had it every year, but it's not on the schedule, so I'm wondering where that is. I guess I'd just like to know where we are, get a report tonight. Maybe one of you can ask the question or talk about it, what the status of the budget is, at least in the short term. I just want to hear what we will expect to see. The next council meeting is supposed to be a preliminary budget. And I wonder what that's going to be. Normally, the preliminary budget is like 250 pages long. And is that going to be available at the next council meeting? Then following that, there's a council retreat to discuss that document. And then a whole series of things have to happen between then. So I'd just like to know where we are with the preliminary budget, and if there's still going to be a budget study session on October 16th. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Joe DeVore, general public comment.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Want to talk about two things tonight. One is appreciation for the green waste program that the city had over last year. I hope it becomes a recurring thing. Everybody I've spoken to has either utilized it or is appreciative of it. It was a great program for the city to provide. Second thing I want to discuss, and I know the city is different than the school district. However, I just received some public records from OSPI. And those public records would indicate that the seismic and retrofit evaluation of the high school may not be going very well. Haven't gotten any final report or anything definitive. But in OSPI's paperwork, they said they're throwing around the idea for an alternate site for the high school should it be not cost effective to retrofit the high school. So I dug a little bit further in, and I found only one location that is being considered that OSPI had documents on, and that was a lot up in Seabrook. It's very specific. They had a seismic study of this area. They had lot lines drawn out on several of the lots. There's some correspondence with some people from Seabrook with OSPI, yet we've not heard a peep from North Beach School District about the potential of having to relocate the school, where they're at on the seismic retrofit review, or the possibility of it moving up. Again, I know it's two different governing bodies, but I'm not aware if there is a liaison or a point person that works with the school district to ensure that the residents of Ocean Shores and their students are heard or considered when they're looking at proposals to either retrofit or relocate the high school. Thank you.
And then finally, Gina Rawlings, fundraiser and candidate forum.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
The reason that I'm here is I just wanted to announce that we are having a candidate forum for county commissioners. We have two positions that are able to be voted on through the North Beach. Normally you would go through district first for the primary, but the general allows everyone to vote on that. And so we are having all four candidates for county commissioner tomorrow night at the Lions Club at 6 p.m. and it will go for 2 hours because we have 2 positions, so 4 candidates tomorrow night. There will be more candidate forums in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be bringing information about that. And the other thing is that our school district keeps getting put in the newspaper for other reasons than what we'd really like to be proud of. And the previous speaker gave some information that was news to me as well. But we also found out that Kevin Traer, the science teacher, who is well loved and is very popular with trying to get kids to be interested in science, his budget was cut. And even though, whatever the reasons are, the idea is to try to support that. And Shannon Rubin at the Canterbury has been collecting donations to help support his budget so that he can provide this science program that he is known for providing. And so if anyone is wanting to participate, you can drop off the donations, financial donations to the Canterbury. And I thank you, and hopefully I'll see a whole bunch of people at the forum
tomorrow night. It's an important decision to make. Thanks.
Concludes public comment.
All right, I don't know if this is right for me to say, but I'm going to say that there is a GoFundMe on Facebook for the school, and I support the school every opportunity I get. All right, so next up we have staff report, city administrator report.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just 3 things tonight that I want to discuss briefly with you. The first is our new IT contract. Per Council's request last year, the city put out a bid for an IT consulting contract, and we received 5 proposals. The current holder of that is BJAX, and BJAX did not bid this time. And after eliminating the 2 most expensive proposals, the bid review group settled on 3 proposals to evaluate. To this end, a group of evaluators with backgrounds related to the industry and based on their respective experiences compiled an evaluation sheet, which has tentatively identified a potential bid winner. But before we bring this item back to council, the mayor and myself will meet with our IT team, gather a little bit of their feedback, and then conduct an interview with the organization that has been recommended by the committee. After that interview, the city will bring this forward to council for award if we're satisfied with all the answers. But we look forward to bringing that to you shortly. Another thing that we've been working on is our new court contract. Recently, the mayor, myself, our city court clerk, and our human resources officer interviewed Sean Thrasher for our municipal court judge. The interview actually went really well, and we anticipate bringing a complete package to the Ocean Shores City Council in October that will allow us to keep the Ocean Shores Municipal Court here in the city. It will start in the mornings from now on and run in through the afternoon. And in that package will be new contracts for our defense attorney and our prosecuting attorney, and a first-time contract for what will hopefully be our new judge. But I will just say, between us all, I'm extremely relieved and very happy that this ended up working out, because we were really kind of boxed in when the county said that they would not be in a position financially to take our court on. So I'm glad that happened, and like I said, the interview went really well. And then lastly, the city is made an offer to a new control system specialist. Our new control system specialist will be David Church, and he will be replacing Ricky Victoriano as our public works control system specialist, as Ricky is now the crew chief for the Ocean Shores Water Department. For those of you who don't really know what the Ocean Shores control specialist does, he does the IT work between the departments at Public Works primarily. So he does IT troubleshooting, fixing various issues, making sure that the equipment is running properly for the wastewater treatment plant, for wastewater collections, and for our water processing plant. So it can be a very, very busy job, and it is a very, very hard job to fill, generally speaking, because a lot of those tech jobs require advanced level skills, as this individual has, and of course they're very coveted on the I-5 corridor, and they're able to offer money that we simply cannot offer down here. So we're lucky to have found someone, and they will begin in the first week of October. And that concludes the city administrator report for the night.
All right, now we've got council committees and liaison reports. That's the word I was looking for. All right. Denise, could you start us off?
Yes, thank you. And first I wanted to say I did not sign warrants for the past 2 weeks, but thank you to Allison for filling in for me while I was on vacation. I did attend the radio board this morning, and the radio board looked over their budget proposal for the coming year, the one that was presented to us at last meeting. They are also getting more detailed budget reports, which is a good thing for them to look at. And so far, this budget cycle, a combination of North Beach Independent Media and KOSW have contributed over $19,000 to the city budget.
All right, very good. Allison.
I signed warrants and attended agenda setting and the finance committee meeting. And at our finance committee meeting, we discussed looking at the utility fees and all of the other fees that are charged throughout the city, that one of the things we would like to have is for the department heads, any of them who charge fees, to have them look at what they're charging, see if they need to make changes, since we are working on the budget, and come and speak to council about that. We did discuss the 3% cap, increasing that to 6%, but not on everything. And then looking at some possible CPIs, and that is something we'd like to get on the agenda for discussion. That's it.
All right, thanks, Allison. Lisa Scott.
I attended agenda setting, signed warrants, and actually was very thankful to be asked to participate in interviews for the police department. First time I had actually done that, and learned a tremendous amount. So thank you for that opportunity. And then Thursday will be Council of Government, so I'll have a report at the next council meeting.
All right, thanks. Mr. Tom Taylor.
I attended the finance committee review, and apparently I missed a couple things due to my employment this time around, but I will do better on the next ones.
All right. Richard?
I attended the Parks Board meeting on 11 September 2024, this year actually, and there are several items that were discussed. Probably one of the most significant is the Parks Board wants to focus their attention on budget items that fall within the Parks Comprehensive Plan. One of those items is rain shelters, potential for rain shelters at the Chinook Dock Park, which are both a high citizen priority and in accordance with the Parks Comp Plan. This year's Parks budget, they're focusing on what they're nicely calling lights, camera, action. Lights, where to put them to help protect against vandalism, in their projected cost. Cameras, where they can be most effective to identify and deter the vandalism that's happening. And then action, the need for nature walks, summer recreation program for the school kids, and the potential for pickleball courts. Who knew? But the community club has the only pickleball courts in the city, and there's typically a 60-person waiting list to get on the court. So there's an obvious need for Ocean Shores Parks to supply some pickleball courts. And the last thing, there's some communication friction going on that I sure hope gets resolved quickly. The Parks Board has done a fabulous job. The mayor has done a really good job, and we, the citizens and council members, we all benefit by the stellar job that the Parks Board has done over, for a long, long time. So I would like to see whatever's going on there. I hope that gets resolved. I also attended the 9/11 memorial at the fire station. I attended the finance department exit audit. Congratulations, Sarah, and the whole finance department. It was a stellar exit audit. I don't think that there were any. Yeah, exactly. You deserve it. I don't think that there were any notables found. And I zoomed in on the finance committee meeting as I would have been the fourth member, and it was better for me to Zoom rather than be tempted to speak out and create an open meetings violation. It was an enlightening meeting, and that's all I have.
All right, Lisa Griebel.
Thank you. I attended agenda setting, and the library board has not had a meeting, but they did want to make sure that our community members check the calendar because October is a big and busy month at the library. There are 11 adult programs running, 3 children's programs, and 5 teen programs. And a shout out to the generous support of the Friends of the Library, because they now have 14 public computers that are completely upgraded, and now patrons can use their flash drives, save documents, and download information and other day-to-day tasks. And previously, there were only 2 computers that were available for that type of service. So thank you to the Friends of the Library.
All right, thanks. Time for the mayor's report. The city will be taking steps to shore up the temporary berm near Damon Point in preparation for this coming winter, so that is about to get started. We have also hired an engineering firm and a consultant to assist with the design and permits for a permanent medium-term solution at our southern erosion problem that we have. And so that will be going next year, unfortunately. Now we're fighting with the bad weather that's coming, so we'll shore it up temporarily, and then when the weather gets better next year, we're going to be working on a permanent solution for that erosion problem. Finance and accountability audit is complete. The city received a clean audit, and all that info is about the audit is on our city website, and it can be found there. So we did open that audit up to the public, so the public could come and sit and listen and ask questions with the auditor. So that was kind of a first here at the City of Ocean Shores. North Beach Hyaks, their homecoming parade is October 18th at 4 p.m. through the city. And, you know, I'd like to see a good turnout for the students and the returning alumni for that. And the city has been given, or I should say awarded, a CTB grant for the amount of $150,000 to perform a study on the remnant jetty to determine how that jetty has affected erosion there at the south end of the town. And we feel, all of us feel here in the administration and the people in Public Works and some of the people that have helped us with this temporary berm, that the remnant jetty is really an important piece to stop the erosion that we have going on. So we'll have this study to take to the Corps of Engineers, and hopefully we can get some things going on that, and that would be a real permanent solution for us down there at the south end. And that's it for my report. We have a consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you. Old business here. We have an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, relating to the City Council's Code of Ethics. And that will be presented by Denise Sires and Councilmember Allison Klein. I don't know which one of you want to go first.
Okay, so at our last meeting, we had the presentation, we had our attorney present, and we did make some corrections. On page 9, the correction has been made for the attorney reviewing all ethics complaints. That has been removed. On page 12, we did add 2.12.075 on frivolous complaints. That was added. And those were the 2 corrections we made. Now, everything else is the same. In the ordinance, it does state that the 12 community members who are a part will be selected by the mayor pro tem. In some discussion on that, I would like to make a motion to amend this, that the selection of the community, the pool of 12 community members will be made by the mayor pro tem and the ad hoc committee.
Second that motion.
All right, we have a second. Is any comments or questions about that? Yeah, Richard?
So I'm confused who the ad hoc committee would be, the committee that created this draft ordinance. I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other? Lisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciate this amendment. I don't think it should just be all on the mayor pro tem to make that decision. Hopefully we have a large pool of applicants to choose from, and that we will look at all of those applications and each individually make our recommendations to bring forward to city council. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Well, and one of the things we, as part of, we still are working on the council guidelines for our procedures. And so the selection process for that, we want to be able to include in our guidelines.
All right. Any more comments about the amendment? Then all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passed. So this is the second reading, and we have public comment next. Anybody for public comment?
Joe DeVore.
Once again, good evening. I was lucky enough to be on that committee that put that document together. And I say lucky because the community members that I worked with and the city staff that I worked with and the council members were top-notch. They were very thoughtful. The research was pretty in-depth, and everybody was reasonable in discussion. They were pleasant meetings. And our goal, which I think we came up with, was a fair and consistent process to handle complaints within the city. Something that's going to be fair to the complainant, the city as a whole, as well as any council member that may have a complaint lodged against them. So I just want to say thanks to everybody that was part of that process. So.
Thanks. Don, you had your hand, yes.
Thank you very much. I thought there was a really good document, and the people that worked on it, kudos to all of them. I have just a couple of comments. One of them is with Municipal Code 2021.12.060. It's called Prohibited Conduct, and it's on top of page 4, section A.2. And it has to do with the beneficial interest in contracting. And it prohibits a council member's involvement in making a contract when that council member has a beneficial interest in the contract. But it does not cover the case of a person that has a contract with the city already and then becomes a council member and was not involved in making that contract. That was a situation, that's a real life situation happening in Ocean Shores. There was a person here that had very important advisory advice to the city mayor and the council, and that person was elected to the council. And it was deemed not to be a conflict of interest because that person was not involved in making the contract. It was made before he got on the council. So I looked through this document and I don't see anything in here that handles that situation. And it was a well-known loophole, and it was a loophole in the state law, and it also appears in here, this one too. And my second comment has to do with section 2.12.065. It's called complaint process. And section D at the top of page 11 involving the code of ethics. And my question is, there's the process, the council is going to discuss the findings, facts, conclusions, and recommendations of this three-person ethics committee. But it's not clear as whether those discussions are made in public or in executive session. I'd like to have this document amended to show specifically that those discussions are held in open meeting if it gets that far, and all votes are taken in an open meeting. And it's not clear at all from that wording as to whether or not that's the case. I'd like to see it actually put it into the word. Thank you.
All right, yes, Gene.
I'll keep it brief since I spoke at the last. I just wanted to reiterate what Joe said. This was a really great collaboration and a lot of thought and research went into this. And thank you, Sarah, for providing a lot of the research materials that we used. And I know you can't answer, and maybe Denise and Allison, you will say something, but as discussed with the attorney, that these meetings will be done as an OPMA. So to answer Don's question, but once again, just thank you for the opportunity. It was a great experience, and we look forward to finishing up the guidelines with the same gung-ho that we did with these in collaboration. Thanks.
All right, any other public comments out there? Okay, so we go to council questions and discussion. Yes, Denise.
I just want to verify what Jane said. According to our attorney, all of the council discussion will be in an open public meeting.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? Oh, Richard, yeah.
I'm looking at page 12, 2.12.075, frivolous complaints. And it says there that the Ethics Committee may find that a complaint brought pursuant to this ethics code is frivolous and without merit. And I would like the council to consider changing that to perhaps either I think best would be the city's attorney to determine whether that's a frivolous complaint. And I see a head shaking, so.
Yeah, the attorney said that would be up to the committee, not the attorney.
And there's another reason. The attorney, because they represent the city in these issues, does not want to become a material witness to articles of fact in this case, so we're trying to keep the attorney out of that.
Makes perfect sense. So thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Lisa Griebel.
I think I had some comments last reading, and then I'm going to reiterate one of them, and that's I do have concerns on page 9 of 13. It's number 5, where it describes who the complainant can be, and I still am concerned that we're limiting who can make a complaint, and because we are a city that attracts visitors, future business owners, future property owners, that this limits who can make the complaint.
All right. Anybody want to comment on that?
That was when the committee met with the attorney. This was the recommendation that the attorney made for the language that we use.
And Douglas, if I can weigh in, just because I had a long conversation with Kendra about this very topic. She has represented other cities that are not so fortunate to have language that's stringent in it. And they get a lot of frivolous records requests from people who have extremely narrow to no connections with the city. And it limits people from making complaints just sort of across the country or across the state who want to do it. And she says she knows of several cases. I believe these were in Issaquah, North Bend, where people that had like literally just gone on vacation there or had a one-time owned property there, and then ended up doing ethics complaints against all the council members. And she told me it cost them a fortune, both in time and money, to litigate these things or to review them. So that was the reason she wanted to have some form of standing in this document that limited it to people who had real legitimate complaints about the city of Ocean Shores, but had some kind of ties to the city of Ocean Shores.
All right. Yes, Denise.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to what Scott said is after hearing Kendra's explanation, all of the committee, including our citizens, agreed to her recommendation.
All right. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead. Oh, Lisa, go ahead. I didn't see
And I think the last reading, I also mentioned that we still haven't developed the procedures to guide, like that would guide the committee that would look at the complaints. So I do have concerns that we don't have a process in place yet. I think one of my former assistant principals, whenever I would move forward with things, would try to get me to slow down and tell me the devil's in the details, Lisa, the devil's in the details. So I just have concerns that we don't have those done yet, that we would move forward with something without quite knowing quite how it would work yet.
Yes, Lisa Scott.
I just had a quick question. Do you mean in reference to like not having the application process?
I'd say it's more than just the application process, but once you've determined who's on the committee, how do they actually meet? When do they meet? What do they do in the process? Like, how do they conduct the actual process to review the complaint? And I think, again, Sarah did a great job of providing a lot of information from other cities, and some of the other cities actually had those processes. They actually had a guidebook for the ethics committee about like what to do and how to review it.
Thank you. I was just confused, so thank you.
Yes, Richard.
I would like to riff on what Lisa Griebel just said, and overall, I agree with everybody who spoke about what a great job the committee did in putting this together. The thing that I see as a difficulty is we passed this ordinance and we don't have the procedure in place to make the ordinance work, and I don't know how to close that loophole or whether or not we really need to close it. And I'm asking Allison and Denise to weigh in on your thoughts on what happens if there's an ethics complaint before the guidelines are completed.
Okay, so if you look in the document, starting on page 9, it starts with any complaint that this code of ethics has been violated shall be reviewed by the city clerk or designee for a determination of completeness. And then it goes step by step what the committee does. The pool of pre-approved community members shall be appointed with council consensus. The pre-approved community members, the randomizer to select them within 5 business days, where it goes, then how many days the committee has to review and to review all the information that's been submitted. And then within 5 days of the receipt of it, the written findings, conclusions, and recommended disposition, the city clerk shall forward a copy. So I think we have the procedures of how it's going to be done in here, because that was one of the things we looked at.
It also follows 2.12.060. So those are the criteria that the committee looks at. So it's similar to what we had before, but it lists out what that is. So the violation has to fall within that code section.
Denise?
All right, Denise? Oh, Richard.
So I appreciate both of those answers, and I read that, and I didn't as tightly connect the dots as your both explanations connected. Thank you both.
All right, any other questions or comments? Lisa Griebel.
It might be my last comment. So I do just want to say thanks to the committee that worked on this, and it's developing an ad hoc committee and adding community members is just, that's really awesome and special, and I think you're modeling how that can work in the future here, so I appreciate the work that you did. And I think maybe it's just that my concept of what details and procedures are might be different than what other people's concept is, because I was thinking in the lines of how do you interview people, how do you maintain confidentiality during the process, those kind of like really specific details to guide a committee so that the process could go smoothly and not bring about more complaints, or we want it to go well. And so oftentimes having a very specific procedural document guide it will make it run more smoothly. So that's my concern. Is all. But again, thanks so much. And I just love that your group modeled how to add community members to an ad hoc committee and have it go well. So thanks.
All right. Any other?
So
comments?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the amended ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, relating to the City Council's Code of Ethics, adopting OSMC Section 2.12.050, describing the Code of Ethics purpose, adopting OSMC Section 2.12.055, setting forth definitions, adopting OSMC Section 2.12.060, setting forth prohibited conduct, adopting OSMC 2.12.065, establishing an ethics complaint and enforcement process, adopting OSMC 2.12.070, setting forth penalties for noncompliance, adopting OSMC 2.12.075, setting forth frivolous complaints, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
I second.
All right, we have a second. Is there any more comment? All in favor?
Aye.
We need a roll call, please.
Councilmember Sires?
Yes.
Councilmember Sires is a yes. Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor is a yes. Councilmember Griebel?
No.
Councilmember Griebel is a no. Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein is a yes. Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott is a yes. Councilmember Wills?
Yes.
Councilmember Wills is a yes. That's 5 yeses and 1 no.
All right, thank you. So next up in old business is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, amending section 17.50.210 and 17.50.250 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code relating to design standards and guidelines for accessory structures, providing servability and establishing an effective date. And this will be presented by our Planning Commission Chair, Mark Lawless.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Administrator, members of the City Council, and members of the Ocean Shores community. I've been here before, and the City Council and the Planning Commission have collectively worked on changes respective to Ocean Shores Municipal Code 17.50 to enhance the design standards and guidelines throughout the City of Ocean Shores. The changes referenced in this ordinance are in regards to non-accessory structures, the standards and application procedures, architectural features, minimum square footage, 40% rule, and accessory dwelling structures. Section 17.50.210 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code is hereby amended to read as follows. In all residential zones, no building or combination of buildings, permitted or otherwise, shall exceed 40% of the total lot area as specified in this section. In addition, no dwelling shall be permitted on any lot within the main floor area of a main structure, exclusive of open porches, garages, shall be less than 650 square feet. By doing so, this will streamline a chart, an old chart that was in the code, and it's been changed or will be changed to 650 square feet. A more than one-story dwelling shall have a minimum main floor area of a main structure exclusive to open porches and garages of 650 square feet. Unpermitted accessory structures are limited to 3 per house in all residential zones. No building or combination of buildings, permitted or otherwise, shall exceed 40% of the lot area as specified in this section. Section 17.50.250 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code is hereby amended to read as follows. as it applies to accessory dwelling units. Accessory dwelling units are permitted in association with a single-family residence in all residential districts, subject to the following requirements. 1 ADU shall be allowed per residential lot in conjunction with any detached single-family structure. The ADU shall be permitted as a second dwelling unit added to, created within, or detached from the original dwelling. The ADU shall be designed, oriented, and constructed in a way that maintains, to the extent practical, the appearance of the primary structure of a single-family residence and the privacy of residents in adjoining dwellings. The ADU shall have a gross floor area of no more than 800 square feet or 40% of the gross floor area of the primary residence, whichever is less. No person may operate or offer an ADU as a transit rental, as described in Ocean Shores Municipal Code 17.04.567. However, an ADU may be occupied pursuant to a residential lease or rental agreement if the term is for a continuous period of 1 month or more.
All right, thank you. That's the second reading. Do we have any public comment?
I have Joe DeVore.
Good evening. I just want to speak in opposition to these changes, particularly the one allowing for ADUs in all residentially zoned areas. That effectively does away with the R1 that we currently know in Ocean Shores, where you can't have a duplex, can't have a rental ADU, things of those nature. People buy into R1 so that they're in a single family residence, not a family residence with an apartment. Now, I'm kind of late to the dance because I was out of town and only had time to really look into this today. And I found out that there are some state mandates that go along with this. 1337. And 1110 I didn't think really applied because they had population limits on them. But 1337 did. But I also found out today that we bought into the Growth Management Act, that we are part of the Growth Management Act as the City of Ocean Shores. And that's what the people that are under that, or the municipalities under that, are subject to these change in 1337. However, it goes on further and states that urban growth areas, areas that are designated as urban growth areas. And this is the first time I'm hearing or reading about these terms, and I have a couple of questions, and I know it's not give and take, but just something for the council to consider. What are we getting for belonging to the Growth Management Act? Are we getting inordinate amount of grants? What is the squeeze for the fruit or for the juice? What are we getting out of it? If it's not sufficient to give up local control over zoning and code, my next question is, can we opt out of that? I'm big on local control for zoning, and if the reason why we're doing this is the state wants to mandate a re-engineering of R1 housing, I think that those things should be looked at. I'm against it. I don't know if it's the state requirement that's making us do this. I don't know if we fall under the urban growth area that's making us do that. But if that is, and we're ceding local control over our neighborhoods, maybe it's time to not let Olympia extort us with grant money to control how we run our streets in Ocean Shores. Thank you.
All right, anybody else for public comment? Yes, go ahead, Jane.
Good evening again, Jane Shattuck, Ocean Shores resident. I'm pretty much in line with what Joe said. It's very concerning to me, and I realize that we're pulling this from a state RCW, but there are several exemptions, and one does come from the Growth Management Act, which I was informed that Ocean Shores got into, but I had not verified that. If we are not, that is one of the exemptions that's allowed, that we do not have to follow this RCW. In 1110, in there it also lists, and I do not know if this applies or not because I am also late to the game, but any county under 270,000 in population is also exempt, which is Grace Harbor County. And Grace Harbor County, I know for a fact, is not part of GMA and did not buy into GMA. So, and my concerns is with this, once again, yes, it's stated, by doing this, you are taking the R1 away. People bought into it, like Joe said, but my other concern is that that's basically rezoning. And whenever you're rezoning, every property owner has a right to buy in and vote on that rezone. And this is not giving anybody the opportunity. You are increasing density. No one has mentioned how that increase in density will affect our infrastructure from our sewer to our water, and who's going to pay for that down the road. As Joe mentioned with the urban growth, if we're not in that to where Ocean Shores can only grow so much, then we need to make sure we opt out of that. Once again, I think that we need to have a town hall before council votes on this and have a lot of these questions answered. And do we have a way that we can opt out of this RCW? Because once again, it's about property owners and having the right to vote on a rezone without all of this being allowed on there. And once again, like Joe said, with the 17.50.20 saying all residential districts, you're mandating everybody rezone right now. So I just ask council, think about this. I understand you've gone into a third reading, but there's a lot of unanswered questions. And once again, I just keep going back to nobody's discussed infrastructure and rezoning people's property without their ability to vote on it. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, Ken.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jan Hyatt, residents. I, again, will go along with what Joe and Jane have said. I have a few more questions. You are indeed taking an R1 zone and changing it, even though I was told that that is now a state law. I'm not sure that that state law applies to all municipalities. And I'm wondering if the attorney was actually brought into this discussion to determine if Ocean Shores needed to do this by state law. Some of my questions, one of them would be, if I do an ADU and then I decide to move to Arizona and rent my house out, I now have 2 rentals on a R1 zoning area, and having a third party take care of it. So who's going to come after me and say that that's wrong, and is there a fine for that? The other one is, how many vehicles can we have now? I believe we can have 4, although I haven't looked it up lately. And most of them have to be working. One of them may be there unlicensed for a while, but I'm not sure how long they can stay there. So say I have 2 rentals on the property and about 8 or 10 cars. Okay, who's taking care of that problem? We need to have more information on this brought forward to all the citizens, and I do agree that we need a town hall, city chat, possibly have the attorney there, and explain to the citizens when they buy into an R1 that this council has the right per the state to make a change to that. We need to let everyone know. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, council.
I do.
Yes, Lisa.
Okay, so the city is not planned under growth management. We're partially planning. The county and the cities all within Grace Harbor are not planning under growth management, only partially planning, and that is with your critical areas and your shorelines. So this is not a requirement that we do. However, what we discussed at the last meeting is we know this is coming from the state eventually. It is heading our way, whether we plan under growth management or not. And we discussed that. We also have a problem right now with missing middle housing. We have a lot of issues finding rentals around here, especially for our work staff, if we want them to live where they work. And this was one method to be able to do that, as well as have mother-in-law style apartments. It was allowed 1 ADU per unit. We discussed this at the last meeting. I appreciate some of you that weren't here. We did discuss this at the last meeting, and this was a way to be able to have that missing middle housing without creating it. We're not rezoning anything. What we're doing is you're allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit, whether you have your 20-year-old son staying with you that wants to live on the property but yet separate, or your mother-in-law, or yes, you could rent it out long-term if you are there. The codes don't change regarding this, so I know the question came up with parking. You're allowed 4 vehicles. You're still only allowed 4 vehicles. That doesn't change. And as far as your percent coverage, it's 40% lot coverage, period. So if you can't get everything you want under that 40%, then it's not going to work for you. So again, this isn't a state law. It's not mandated that we do this. We chose to go down, have the Planning Commission look at this and discuss it at council level. So that's kind of where we're at. But again, we are not under growth management. We're only partially planning.
All right, Richard.
So, Lisa, you stole the words right out of my mouth and probably stated them more eloquently than I could have. But everything that you said is absolutely accurate. If you can't get your ADU and follow the 40% rule, you can't have an ADU. If you can't supply 4 parking spaces, you can't have your ADU. And one of the big buzzwords that has been bandied about in government discussions for a long, long time is the cost of living and having affordable housing. Well, this is a way to potentially achieve some amount of affordable housing if I have enough room on my property to have an ADU and I decide that I want to build an ADU. On the other hand, as was pointed out when Mark read the ordinance, that anybody can rent a room or a portion of their house legally as long as it's for more than a month. That applies to the ADU. The parking situation, if I rent my bedroom, still applies. I still have a maximum number of parking spaces. Well, I'm all in favor of this. As Lisa Scott pointed out, we know that this is going to come down the pike sooner or later. And if we do not pass this, we're only putting off the inevitable. Maybe that's a good thing. But on the other hand, affordable housing is killing us. Literally, there are people who want to come to work here and they can't because they can't afford to live here. So I'm all in favor of this, and I recognize that only a small percentage of homeowners have the requirements needed to meet this regulation, this ordinance. So Mark, good job. Planning Commission, good job. I'm all in favor.
Thank you.
Yes, Allison.
So if I have my house and I build an ADU and I'm in a single family dwelling and I build an ADU and I'm renting it out to someone for a month, 6 months, whatever, how does that not then become multifamily zone? I just don't understand.
If I may, when we were looking at this months ago, we found that in our current code, an RCW that was passed in 2021 made what we had currently in the code basically obsolete. And if you would like me to read it, I'll be glad to. We had in our code, no more than one family shall be allowed to occupy an ADU. Occupancy of the accessory unit is limited to family members related by blood, marriage, or adoption to the occupant of that single family residence of the primary unit, or persons providing nursing or in-home care for the occupant of that single family resident that is the primary unit in exchange for lodging. And what we discovered is RCW 35A.21 .314 passed in 2021 that reads, City code may not limit number of unrelated persons occupying a household or dwelling unit. And so that is what kind of caught our attention, that our code covering the ADUs was limiting to the aforementioned, whereas this RCW said you can't limit it just to relatives, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why the proposal came forward.
All right, thanks, Denise, and then Lisa.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm a little confused as to whether this comes under state law. In looking at House Bill 1337, which was passed in 2023, it appeared as if we did need to conform. And according to that, you're actually allowed 2 ADUs. So if this is not done, if this is proposed and we do not come under the state law, then it seems to me that we wouldn't need to include the ADUs.
So if that says that you could have 2 ADUs, then we would still, we could change it to 2 ADUs, hypothetically, but the 40% rule would still apply. So you could only up to 40% of your lot. So there'd still be that limitation. I was not aware of the 2 ADUs under this House bill.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I think 1337 applies to GMA counties that are fully planning under GMA. And that's why it doesn't apply to us. We have in our code now for ADUs, as Mark mentioned. And so what we're doing is we're correcting our code, because right now the way it's written is in violation of state law. But one of the things in correcting it also is that it becomes impossible for the city to enforce family members only. How are you going to know? And so that's why this change is coming about, as we and I know things happen and not everybody remembers what we discussed at the last meeting, but we did talk about that. And it just becomes impossible at that point to determine who's family, who's not, who's a caregiver, who's not, because if you want to get away with something, obviously you can find a way around that. So this is just really an amendment to our code that already exists. So,
any other comments from the council? Yes, Allison.
So the only thing we're changing is it being family members, or the reasons you said, to basically anybody. There were no limitations on what lots could or could not, or where ADUs could be built before in the previous.
That is correct.
So all we're changing is who can live in the ADU?
Yes, we under the RCW that was passed in 2021, you cannot limit the number of unrelated persons.
Right.
Whereas what our current code said was it had to be a blood relative or a caregiver. And
yeah, I get that, but with the concerns I was hearing from the audience, it seems to me that it had more to do with there was a limit, or with zoning, where ADUs could be.
no,
There wasn't?
no.
Okay, they could be anywhere. Okay.
All right, any other comments from council? All right, so next up we have council action.
Yep, I'll go ahead. I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, amending section 175210 and 175250 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code relating to design standards and guidelines for accessory structures, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
I'll second.
You got a second? Any other comments? Yes. Lisa Griebel.
You were probably wondering why I was so quiet over here. I do want to let you know that I'll be abstaining from the vote because I have an ADU and potentially with this change could maybe someday down the line financially benefit from that. So I'll be abstaining.
All right, thank you for that. So, no other comments, all in favor? We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Sires?
No.
Councilmember Sires is a no. Councilmember Taylor?
No.
Councilmember Taylor is a no. Councilmember Griebel?
I'm abstaining.
Councilmember Griebel is an abstention. Councilmember Klein?
No.
Councilmember Klein is a no. Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott is a yes. Councilmember Wills?
Yes.
Councilmember Wills is a yes. That's 2 yeses, 3 noes, and an abstention. It fails.
All right. Thanks for your work, Mark. So we don't have any new business. We don't have a discussion, but we do have a executive session. And that's going to begin at 7:11. And it'll be over at 7:25. So that'll be basically, now I got to do the math, 9 minutes. Right? $14 minutes. Come on, Frank. Okay. Sorry, we better go.
You got to read it. You can't, you got to read it. You got to read it.
Now I want to change my times. Executive session will be that portion of the meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body during the course of any collective bargaining, professional negotiations, or grievance or mediation proceedings, or reviewing the proposals made in the negotiations or proceedings while in progress. RCW 42.30.110G and RCW 42.30.1404B. There may be council action.
It was cold in there. They definitely got the AC fixed.
Okay, we're back in session. I would like to make a motion to remove Section 4 of the Administrative Benefits Policy regarding compensatory time.
Second. Nope.
You got to write it in dark ink.
I didn't even, yeah. I would like to make a motion to remove Section 4 of the Administrative Benefits Policy regarding compensatory.
Compensatory.
Thank you, Ben. The time. Oh, it's late.
Second.
All right, do we have any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I guess we need a roll call. Did you vote? Oh, okay, sorry, my mistake. It was unanimous. Thanks, Tom. All right, so next we have a agenda review committee, and that's going to be Scott, Sires, and Hartman. So next up is good of the order. Lisa Griebel, would you like to start us?
You move me back and forth all the time, and then you still start with me every single time. Hey, as our summer season is wound down, I'd just like to continue to encourage our community to make sure we are patronizing our local businesses. We are just so lucky to have so many quality businesses in our community. And as the summer season ends, sometimes it gets a little harder for our businesses. So let's remember to patronize local businesses. And just a reminder that since we don't have future agenda items, I like to continue to mention if we could continue to work on our public safety committee, and when we could have council chats would be great. And then will we be getting a revised budget schedule, since that I know that some of our dates have changed on our budget schedule, so if we could get a revised one, that would be awesome.
All right, Richard.
So I don't have much, but what I do have, I don't drive at night very much. I used to love driving at night. Anyway, I've driven at night a few times now, and the other night in the fog, I love the reflective white striping. Even in the fog, I can see the edge of the road, and that makes me and the ditch and the deer in the ditch happy. Thank you.
Tom, thanks.
Okay. I want to thank you guys for staying here this long and listening to everybody talk. Have a good night.
All right, Lisa Scott.
I just want to just a shout out to staff appreciation for all the work, especially during the audit. I know that's a lot of work, and really do appreciate all that time and the clean audit. Also, volunteers. I'd like to just thank all the volunteers. I try to do a shout out for all the highway cleanup every meeting, because I think it's just so important. The work Defenders of the Coast are doing. And then also thank you to the ethics committee. I know it wasn't easy, and really appreciate all the work that went into that. It's been a couple years coming, and I know over a year we've been working back and forth between what council worked on and what the committee did. So appreciate all the work that went into that, and looking forward to moving forward with the guidelines.
Allison.
Thank you to Sarah for putting together our great utility rate book for us for Finance Committee. That has been very beneficial. Ethics Ad Hoc Committee, thank you for all your work. I appreciate it so much. And then let's get to work on the guidelines, and let's get out and support our HIAC football team, people.
All right, Denise.
Yeah, I would also like to commend Sarah and the entire finance department for the clean audit. I've been through many in my career, and I know how traumatizing they can be, and really how much work they are. So thank you so much for doing that for the city to come out with the clean audit. Also, I want to encourage people to please sign up for the KOSW listener survey. So far, we have not had a good response to that, but the radio board is really looking for input from the citizens. And to reiterate what Allison said, thank you especially to the citizens on our ethics committee, Jane Shattuck, Joe DeVore, and Rick Beveridge for all they contributed, as well as the amazing research that Sarah did in putting together the binders, and Allison for her leadership. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.